RusAme reader, Crowsong, and today I will be reading to you from RusAme Oneshots by Rainbow__772. That's me! Anyway, today I'm going to read Out Here Under Stars. America smiled a little, allowing himself to fall out of this current conversation, letting the conversation that Japan had started over going to the mall that weekend become a quiet hum of background noise. He wasn't going to be going. He already mentioned that. He had asked Russia if he wanted to go camping that weekend, and Russia had agreed. So he could really care less about the planning of a trip to the mall. Now that he thought about it, he still had a few things he needed to go and get set up and get ready, so he waved goodbye, only really doing that for anyone who was paying attention to him. Then he slipped away from the group. He stepped into the warm fall air, smiling a little. He knew it was a little late for camping, but he'd been busy during the prime camping season. Plus, he personally liked the cooler weather. He also knew Russia loved the cooler weather, so it was a plus for both of them. He hoped that maybe he might be able to get the chance to confess to Russia during their trip, and of course, hope it wouldn't fuck everything up. While he walked home to prepare things for the trip, he found himself thinking about the trip to come. They were going to one of his favorite places to camp, Fort Taint. The place was beautiful. There was a large lake with some islands dotted around. There was a far larger one dead middle of it. The trees were tall, and they were filled with colorful leaves. There was a small clearing he had found while hiking once. It had been when he was younger. He'd wandered off from his family and then found it. It was fairly untouched. It still was, for the most part. It was a place open to camping, he'd checked years ago, and it was the place he planned to bring Russia. He knew that it was pretty and hoped Russia would enjoy it as much as he did. This would actually be the first time he'd be camping with someone other than his family. Going straight from camping with family to camping alone, and now to camping with his close friend and longtime crush. It was bold, he knew, but he hoped that the trip wouldn't get too awkward, as it'd been about 8 years since he'd gone camping with someone else. The last time he'd gone camping with someone, it had been just him and his dad when he was 17. The thoughts had sufficiently distracted him until he arrived in front of his home. He opened the door and got straight to collecting and packing what he knew would be needed. He and Russia would be sharing a tent. Since he knew his tent was big enough, and Russia didn't have a tent of his own at the moment, he didn't mind, especially since it meant close proximity to Russia. It'd be flustering, but that was something that'd be very worth it. He didn't sleep, and Russia knew that. He knew Russia wouldn't be disturbed by him remaining awake, and he knew to put Russia back to bed when he woke up in the middle of the night. He allowed his thoughts to slip away from the task at hand as he worked by muscle memory. He didn't really need to think about what he needed anymore. It was deeply ingrained into him to what to grab. Soon he was done, and he quietly packed everything, aside from the perishable goods, into the car. They wouldn't be leaving until tomorrow, so he could pack the perishable goods when Russia arrived the next morning. It was getting fairly late right now, so he decided to busy himself with some knitting. It was peaceful and calming. Plus, he was working on a gift for Russia. It was a scarf, mainly maroon, but he was working some gold yarn into the ends. He was mostly done with it. He was just working the patterning of it into some of the ends. He honestly hoped Russia would like it, and he was hoping to have it done by the morning so that he could give it to Russia before they hit the road. The forecast promised cold nights and mornings, so he wanted Russia to have it. He hummed and then called to his Echo, asking it to play his No Thoughts Head Empty playlist. Funnily enough, the first song to play was I Talk in My Sleep from the Foxflower album of the Crane Wives. He laughed a little to himself, his inability to sleep making this personally funny to him. However, he loved the song and found himself humming along to it. He allowed himself to sink into a comfortable rhythm of knitting. He lost track of time thanks to the music and his knitting. Before he knew it, the sun was rising and he was nearly done with the scarf, and Russia would be there in a couple hours. He was excited, so he decided to stay put, finishing up the scarf over the next hour and a half. After he was done, he set about collecting the perishable goods, putting the ones that needed to remain chilled in his cooler. Once the cooler was packed, he started bringing it out to the car, where he intended to set it, only to be greeted by Russia when he was walking out of the door. "Good morning." He heard Russia almost purr out. It caused him to nearly jump out of his skin. "Jesus Christ!" he exclaimed, almost dropping the cooler. "Whoa, whoa, whoa," Russia said softly, quickly moving his hands to gently steady America. "Careful there, pretty bird," Russia teased with a slightly smug look on his face. America let out an involuntary chirp before he covered his mouth, flushing after he made the noise. "Russia!" he whined. Russia, however, only smirked in response. "Right, I'm not wrong. You are a pretty bird," Russia continued teasing lightly, still smiling at America. America let out another chirp before making a far more indignant bird noise. He hated how easy it was for Russia to make him chirp like a bird. Well, maybe not hate. He just didn't like how much Russia used it to his advantage. He wasn't sure why Russia did it so much, but he was admittedly a bit curious. He wouldn't ask, though. He was simply a little too nervous to. "Anyway, do you want some help getting that cooler to your car?" Russia asked with a small hum, hoping he'd be able to help. "I can get it there on my own," America started, looking up at Russia, finding a slightly sad and disappointed look on his face. "But you can help if you want." Russia perked up and then almost immediately took the cooler from America and ran towards America's car. America let out a little sigh and followed his friend, and then unlocked and opened the car door so that Russia could put the cooler in the back seat. Once it was placed down, Russia looked around for a second, then ran over to him and picked him up. America let out a little giggle and smiled as he gently hugged Russia. "I've got pretty much everything we're going to need packed up," America started with a small smile. "Before we head out, though, how about we have breakfast?" "Sounds good to me," Russia agreed, gently putting America down. America led Russia into the house, waiting for Russia to enter his house before he closed the door. While Russia did, America grabbed the scarf he'd just finished, carefully hiding the gift before he approached Russia, who was already walking his way. "Hey, Russ, I have a gift for you." America started, nervously approaching Russia. "I just finished it last night. I hope you like it." America gently held out the scarf. He'd worked in a golden flower design into both ends, as well as 2 stripes of color. He hoped he'd been able to make something that Russia would enjoy. Russia carefully took the scarf, examining it with a small smile of careful curiosity, before he put it on and then hugged America. "Thank you," he mumbled. America smiled a little as he slowly hugged back, closing his eyes and allowing himself to feel comfort from the affection. Too soon, though, it came to an end. They had to eat breakfast and then get on the road to Fort Taint. America had a bit of breakfast casserole that the two of them enjoyed before they headed out. Soon they were off on their way to Fort Taint. While they traveled, Russia was in charge of picking the music for their journey. The first song he chose? Ghost by Nell Ward. He honestly had no idea how to feel about that. But it was better than Moya Marmalade by Katya Leo. Russia needed to listen to songs instead of just hearing them. This was Russia's preferred language. He should know that the lyrics are about toxic sex. He eventually found himself humming to the tune of some of the music, as Russia had picked some really catchy tunes. It wasn't long before they were at Fort Taint, and America found himself smiling as the last song he'd been listening to on the road trip played, Notion by the Rare Occasions. He found himself singing along to it with Russia joyfully as he found them a place to park near the camping area. Soon, he parked the car and unlocked the doors. He got out and started getting the stuff from the back of the car. Russia grabbed the cooler and his own stuff, which he didn't have much of since it was his first time camping, while America collected his other supplies. It wasn't long before America was leading the way to the clearing where they'd be camping out. Once they were there, America started setting up the tent while Russia started unpacking anything that didn't belong in the tent. America let out a slightly annoyed huff, sitting on the ground with one of the personally offending tent poles. He didn't notice nor realize that Russia had taken a picture of him. "Your brother says that you look like a staircase," Russia hummed, continuing to unpack. America let out a long sigh as he looked over at Russia. "Why?" "Well, either because you let people walk all over you, or," Russia paused for dramatic effect, "because you look like you need a good railing." America flushed a little, but that didn't stop him from wanting to smack Russia, who was his close friend and crush. "Listen here, you mini WKR tower!" Actually, you're the one who's mini-sized, not me. You're 5'2", and little. You're easy to carry. You're fun size," Russia said, giggling a little, stopping what he was doing to go over and pick up America. "Put me down!" America yelped out as he was picked up. He was, in fact, not put down. Russia continued to hold him until he calmed down and stopped swearing up a storm in the most oddly peachy way. It was what one might call Christian cursing. Russia knew America wasn't genuinely mad at or upset with him, because if he was, he would have done a lot more physically. Maybe even bite him. He'd seen America do that to Mexico when he'd held him back from beating someone's ass when they fucked with Japan. And may have actually started to swear. Though he only actually started swearing when you could begin to see actual and genuine anger from him, and not the mock anger he was seeing at the moment. Russia gently set America down, though he didn't really want to. He liked holding America, but America wanted to be down and was cooled down enough, so there was no real reason to keep holding him up as much as he wanted to continue. America proceeded to make a series of upset bird-like noises before he went back to putting the tent together. After what felt like forever, the tent was up, and the two of them were making their dinner over the fire. "No, we cannot have s'mores yet. We haven't even had dinner yet, Russia," America scolded, sending his friend a playful glare. "But they're iconic camping food. Plus, who cares if we haven't eaten yet?" "I do!" Russia just grumbled and went back to watching the fire after that. Eventually, they'd eaten dinner and had some s'mores. Not too long after that, Russia went into the tent to go ahead and get some rest. America decided to remain near the fire a little longer, pondering his choices, wondering what about him made Russia see him as a close friend. He was obnoxious, as he'd been told. So he couldn't help but wonder what about him led Russia, and all of his other friends, to keep him around. He looked up at the stars and just let his mind continue to wander, not paying mind to everything for a long time. Eventually, though, he decided it was time to put out the fire and head into the tent for the night. Once there, he smiled a little when he saw how peacefully Russia was sleeping. "I love you, Russia," he whispered, knowing Russia probably hadn't heard him, but not really caring. It was better if Russia hadn't heard him anyway. It'd make the trip weird and a bit awkward, but it was nice to finally get off of his chest. He grabbed a couple of things from his bag and started sewing, wanting to distract himself until Russia's middle of the night wake-up that always came like clockwork, no matter where he was. It didn't feel like much time had passed when he heard Russia starting to stir and wake up. He put down his project and moved over to Russia's side of the tent. Yeah, Russia mumbled, nestling his head into America once he had drawn closer. The Russian roughly translates to, I love you. You probably aren't thinking of me, bud, America chuckled, hiding the pain that particular statement caused him. Yep, yeah, Russia repeated stubbornly, holding on to America tighter. The Russian roughly translates to, no, I am. I love you. I'm pretty darn sure you aren't thinking of me. Yeah, America. That roughly translates to, I love you, America. America flustered a little. That certainly proved him wrong. I love you too, Russia. America started nervously. How about you get some more rest, alright? Look at the Osnovka. Russia agreed, hugging onto America a bit tighter. The Russian roughly translates to, as long as you stay. America nodded and settled himself, getting as comfortable as he could with the way Russia was holding on to him. America just laid there as Russia fell back asleep, hoping beyond hope that maybe Russia wasn't talking nonsense due to tiredness. It felt like forever before he felt Russia starting to stir awake beside him, but he felt a little bit of hope as Russia let out a soft hum and snuggled closer. Dobre utro, America, Russia hummed, continuing to snuggle into him. America almost let out a sigh of relief, able to fully tell that Russia was at least partially remembering the late night, early morning interaction. Morning, Russia, America hummed with a smile. How much do you remember? America hoped that Russia, being the way he currently was, wasn't the result of how tired he was. He wanted to believe that little confession was of romantic interest. Russia purred out, moving his head to be in the crook of America's neck. The Russian roughly translates to, first off, you're mine now. America flushed. That was possessive. Not that he at all minded, but it was also confirmation that their relationship was no longer platonic. No, Russia tiredly mumbled, sounding a little disappointed. The Russian roughly translates to, well, unless you don't want to be. No, I'd like to be, America quickly corrected, not liking Russia being upset, and also wanting to make sure their relationship was confirmed. Russia mumbled, as he slowly woke up a little more. The Russian roughly translates to, pinch me, I don't want to be dreaming. I'd prefer not to pinch you, America said, quickly shifting to turn himself around so that he was facing Russia. Time never looks right in dreams, so how about you check that? Russia let out a quiet chuckle and moved one arm so he could reach into his bag to check the old pocket watch he had brought with him. After checking it, Russia had put a hand on the side of America's face, a small smile clear on his face. May I kiss you? America responded with a small affirmative nod before he let himself be pulled into a kiss, which he allowed himself to melt into. One kiss became two, which became three, until America stopped bothering to keep track, allowing himself to just enjoy it. They only stopped when the need for oxygen made itself known to both of them. I love you, Russia, America mumbled, after catching his breath for a moment, blushing with a small smile. I love you too, Russia happily exclaimed, nuzzling his face back into America's neck. He opted to mess with America a little bit, lightly nipping at his neck. Russia, no biting, America yelped, flustering heavily. Fine, Russia hummed out. Anyway, that's the end of the one-shot. I hope you enjoyed it. Anyway, I'd like to invite you to join the Discord, which is linked down in the description below. That being said, I hope you have a nice rest of your day, night, or whatever it is for you. Just enjoy your time. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye!